Las épocas de huracanes van a venir con más fuerza y no estamos preparados. Estamos aquí demandando que nuestros representantes del nivel federal y del nivel federal a nivel más local tomen acción para minimizar nuestra contribución al cambio climático y preparar nuestro Estado en contra de los efectos de un clima cambiante. Y en conjunto, me preocupa que estos representantes no estén más preocupados en cómo asegurar que compañías en nuestro estado, como Iowa, tomen más precauciones para evitar el próximo incendio o derrame de contaminantes en nuestro aire y agua. No solo necesitamos protecciones en contra de cuando pasen estas emergencias, pero más aún para proteger nuestra agua y el aire del uso de operaciones de estas compañías, incluyendo la protección del agua, tomando en cuenta todos los centros de datos que están construyendo por todas partes de nuestro estado. Yo vivo aquí en Georgia y estoy preocupado como ciudadano viendo a nivel federal cómo esta administración destruye nuestras instituciones democráticas y toda protección ambiental. Estos ataques directos al medio ambiente y en contra de la ciencia nos están saliendo caros. Estamos pagando no solo por nuestro futuro y en realidad nuestro presente, pero literalmente estamos perdiendo dinero con los costos de salud por malestares causados por la contaminación y estamos perdiendo trabajos cuando esta administración y nuestro gobernador atacan inversiones en energías alternativas que están surgiendo en todas partes del estado. Aquí en Georgia también estamos pagando más y más por nuestra electricidad. Costos aprobados por el Public Service Commission, cuyas elecciones han sido aplazadas por 5 años. Yo vivo aquí en Georgia y vine aquí hoy en día porque estoy cansado de estar preocupado. Sentí que es hora de tomar acción. Todos nosotros que vivimos aquí en este estado, ciudadanos o no, hablemos inglés o no, tenemos mucho poder. Hay una razón por la cual ciertos políticos atrasan elecciones y esos mismos políticos quieren hacerlo más difícil para que tú estés informado, para que tú votes y así intimidarnos y silenciarnos. Es importante que nos apoyemos entre nosotros, que compartamos información importante. Yo siempre recomiendo conectarse en grupos en tu comunidad, como por el Latinx, y toda acción es importante. Ahora mismo puedes tomar acción llenando la petición en defensa del Environmental Protection Agency, pero también el poder de preguntarnos más sobre un tema, voluntariar en nuestra comunidad, dar testimonio público aquí en este edificio o en tu gobierno local, de condado o ciudad. Y como siempre, votar y recordar a nuestra familia y amigos que ellos también vayan a votar. Este año tenemos una oportunidad grandísima de votar en favor del buen ambiente con la elección del Public Service Commission. Esta es la comisión que regula el Georgia Power y que aprobó 6 veces en 2 años que nos cobran más por la electricidad. Esta es la misma comisión que nos da el poder sobre forzar Georgia Power a usar energía más simple. No dejemos pasar esta oportunidad y vamos a votar en noviembre y en futuras elecciones por candidatos que peleen por nuestros intereses. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Andrés. Gente como él solamente trabaja muy duro en nuestra comunidad para compartir las cosas, para informar a la gente y educarnos en cosas que tienen que ser con clima, carbono, que tienen que ser con cierta justicia, o son gente que they're people who have worked really hard to make sure that all of our voices are being heard every single day. He doesn't just focus on climate change or educating people about the environmental crisis, but just how to do civic justice work in general. To know how to share our stories and speak on these things that are hurting us. Because as people of color, as kids, black community members, Latinos, there are many things that we're facing in our communities. And climate change, carbon pollution is one of those important things that we should be speaking about. Antes que se vayan, por favor, les animo a tomar acción enviando sus comentarios antes de las 7 de agosto. No se olviden, 7 de agosto. Y asegúrense que el evento profesiones de sólidas para que nadie salga a hablar con la gente de estas cosas, de estos temas. Abren sus laptops y entren al EPA commentary section para que puedan compartir sus estudios, para que puedan hablar de lo que está pasando en sus familias y sus communities. Para estar seguros de que la gente no está escuchando. Please make sure to go to the EPA website where you can comment and share your stories, how you're being impacted by carbon pollution in your neighborhood before August 7th. Ahora pasamos a la sesión de preguntas con los medios. Por favor, indiquen su nombre, el medio de que representan y a quién van a preguntar. Now is the time for me to come forward and ask me questions of the company. Please make sure to pronounce your name and what media company you're with. Quiero dar gracias a todos los representantes y a todos los guest speakers que salieron hoy para compartir información conmigo. I want to thank all of our guest speakers that came here to support this great work of making sure that all religions, all communities know how to speak up and share the story about carbon pollution and how they're being impacted. Gracias.
I'm Marissa Becky with WAPE, and I have like a two-part question. First, I don't know if I caught your name at the beginning. Could you just say your first and last name so that I have it on the record?
Yes, my first name is Cristal, and my last name is Valdez.
Perfect. And this is a question for Representative Sanchez, and I'm curious, you talked about Iowa, you talked about being in kind of this tension between federal deregulation and what's happening in Georgia. And I'm curious, for Hispanic communities that want to get engaged in these issues, aside from just sharing general support for cleaner environments in their community, what at the Georgia level are you looking toward for our Latin American communities to be able to take action on? Like, what are we looking at the Georgia level to be able to make impacts on this locally?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, you talk about what we can do on the state level as well. I'm glad that we're able to do it mechanical while not accountable. Unfortunately, it was late. It should have happened before, since it wasn't even the first start they had. And so what we have to do now is we have to make sure we can put regulations and stronger punishments for companies who do what BioLab did to make sure we're enforcing the laws like this, but also create new laws to create stricter regulations around that. Same thing with companies like Sterogenics that are putting in communities. I believe that we need to have stricter regulations on those kind of companies. But also, I think we need to just completely reset our vision of our energy grid here in Georgia, right? And I think we need to obviously elect the Public Service Commission that's going to fight for renewable energy and for a renewable future with net zero carbon emissions by 2035. But we also do that at the state level as well. And we also need to ensure that if they're not going to do it, we need to do it because we don't have time to wait for them to figure out those things are happening. We don't have time. I mean, one thing that I want to talk about as well is I do think that we need to first, at very least, get rid of the tax rates for data centers, and then even look into whether we should even allow more data centers into the state, because they are huge suck out of our resources. So not only is it bad for our communities now because we're not getting water and energy, but also in the future, they're going to create more pollution because now we have to open up another coal mine in Georgia just to be able to meet the demand of these data centers that are providing. We have to stop that. I mean, take a look. We need to pause data centers coming in Georgia and take a look at what's going on before we continue with that, because otherwise it'll be a huge issue. And I also want to invite my colleague, Representative Norman, to see if he can say anything about it.
Hi, Representative Morgan. What you've heard here today can be seen in my district. It is no coincidence that my district, which is in Gwinnett County, is both the most diverse, has the most immigrants and Latinos. It's certainly in Gwinnett County, but it's also the most both energy cost burden as well as environmental burden, highest rates of lung cancer, greatest rates of particulate matter. That is no coincidence because, as Crystal stated, what happened since the 80s is development being put heavy industry being zoned right next to residential areas. So the one thing I would add, particularly at the local level, is for Latinos, immigrants, all people to speak up when these matters are coming up. because we actually see it in other contexts. Without commenting on it, there's been a lot of pushback against the Repealing plan, right? So I would certainly call on more people to speak up at the local level when we are seeing, as we see frequently in my area, gas office conversions to gas stations, which create neighborhoods, which create more homeless communities, and creates more carbon pollution. So the one thing that we can do at the very most local level, in addition to paying attention to the state level, in addition to paying attention to the Public Service Commission, is to pay attention to those matters. I also want to recognize that can be really scary. That can be really scary. It can be also scary to speak up against whether it's commercial or residential apartment complexes that are contributing to this problem, where people are having high utility bills and poor air quality. That can be very scary. So for those that are scared, please reach out to us. Please reach out to Latinx. We will find a way to tell your story. We will find a way to take action, because if people are paying attention, we want more people to pay attention, and we want more people to take that action at the local, state, and federal level. And then one last thing I will say at the state level is, particularly because of the federal funding that's been done. I mean, Marissa, you were very aware that I had a $20 million aid grant cut that was supposed to be for carbon pollution reduction. We're certainly calling for that back, but the state also has a responsibility. I saw that this year we expanded to some controversy in Chiba to cover natural gas consumes in rural communities, and that was a need. That's a controversial issue. I'm not here to talk about whether that's good or bad, but we certainly have a great deal of needs, particularly in immigrant communities, to see that financing improve carbon pollution. So that's something that we can call on people to advocate for when we come back. And before we come back to the session in January, there's going to be scarce funds. These funds should be used here. Yes, we want that on funds back to the station, but do something.
Thank you again. Does anybody else have any questions?
My name is Abby. I work at the Latino News First. So Georgia Power has said that their goal is to be emissions neutral by 2050. Yet we still have two of the largest coal facilities here in the state of Georgia. Do you think that there should be more to be done either through the Public Service Commission or even at the state level? So my question might be for Representative Sanchez or Representative Lynn. But is there something that can be done at the state level in order to create a more sustainable future when it comes to the power companies that are providing the energy, or when it comes to the companies themselves, like data centers, who are requiring much more power and energy?
These are good questions. I'm not sure that, state elections are really important to go out and vote. And also, I think something you can do as an individual is if you can't vote, it's important to consider. Some people don't have access. Just do some research about data centers and the facilities that are providing energy to your household. What does a data center take away from us as people who are living on the need water and clean air? What does that take as citizens? I can share that information with you, and it's open to our representatives and our guest speakers. But at the end of the day, I also feel like you obtain information even when you're taking your own information. When you're doing that research yourself, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that. So definitely go out and do some research, even if you just have to Google it real quick on what do data centers do and what do they need in order to build them. Yes.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the question one time?
Georgia Power, who regulates for the state, has said that their plan is to be carbon emissions neutral by 2050. We've also seen great growth when it comes to data centers, which require a lot more energy and power. Is there anything at the state level that you feel like should be done? Any additional regulations that should be passed? Considering Georgia, I believe the stat that I read today was that they have some of the greatest energy needs in the country.
Yeah, I mean, we have the vast amount of data centers in the country here in Georgia, and that has put a very big strain on our energy grid. And I do believe that I personally feel, this is just me speaking for myself, that we should have the very least cost or end the tax rates that data centers get to come here. And I do think that we need to inject general take a look at even inviting more here before we allow more to see whether we can even handle this much, right? Because at the end of the day, the energy we should be here to support our people, right? Data centers have max a few dozen employees, permanent employees, right? There's hardly anyone there, right? The data centers, all they're doing is taking the plant and sucking up our resources. Where, if anything, they should be paying us to support a lot of the things that they're causing, which is the strain on the energy grid, right? And so, to me, I think we need to look at how they are going to compensate the state and also local municipalities for the cost that they're incurring on us for existing here in the first place. I also believe that in general, net neutral emissions, I mean, we need to have that. 2050 is too late. I think we need to have that very against 2040, right? But even if we do work with 2050, we actually have to go towards that goal, right? And I think the data center is one thing, but also just the fact that there's this huge push by nuclear power to go against some of the solar energy initiatives that even Republicans have introduced, right? Which I fully support. We should run all down solar energy, right? And all other forms of energy. In my view, I don't think it's a question of if we can do it, it's a question of when. And if we have the political will to actually invest in this. And so I think we should be passing the legislation and investing, using our budget to invest and fully going to renewable energy. Right.
I just wanted to add to that. The state of Georgia needs to have its own energy and sustainability. What we have seen is Georgia Power put forth a plan, and not only stick to it, we saw it put the plan rolling. So there's literal evidence that the plans that they put forward are not always going to cover any of this. The problem here is that we are having the power companies put forth a plan, and we are reacting, whether it's the Public Service Commission or the state of Georgia. What can we do as a state of Georgia, including the legislature? And this is certainly not my idea, that I represent Schofield and others that have put Spencer Fry, all sorts of ideas about standards to be met. And we might have a discussion about what exactly that looks like and what is achievable, but we need to have an actual plan. It is not just the utility companies that need to have one. We ourselves, as a state of Georgia, and the government, need to have one.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanchez. We're really grateful to have everyone here. Any other last questions?
Quisiera agregar una pregunta en español, de ser posible, para la señorita Rebeca. Soy Yolice Páez, de Televisión Univisión Atlanta, y hablábamos no solo de la línea política o la línea de desarrollo social que puede tener este tema, sin embargo creo que para la comunidad es importante el call to action, ya lo decía uno de los voceros, cuando más hablamos entonces más podemos escuchar. Para esas familias que pueden estar viendo pues, la noticia del día de hoy en español y consideran que no les afecta directamente, ya sea por desconocimiento o incluso porque tienen la sensación de que no tienen una voz para opinar. ¿Cuál sería entonces el llamado a entender que todos estamos expuestos?
Muy buena pregunta. Para las familias que piensan que no tienen estos problemas de contaminación en sus casas, uno nunca sabe realmente. Hay muchas formas que la contaminación puede llegar a la casa de uno. A veces uno no lo ve con sus propios ojos. A veces uno lo puede ver y ni sabe que es lo que está oliendo. Si esas cosas están pasando en la familia y no sabes, pero quieres estar segura de que tus hijos, si usted está bien, el comento de EPA en el website, cualquier persona puede hacer eso. No tienes que ser, por ejemplo, viviendo en el estado de Georgia. No tienes que estar viviendo en el estado de Georgia. No tienes que ser humano. Cualquier persona puede compartir un comento en el EPA website. Otra cosa que puedes hacer también, si no sabes que tu familia está tiene estos problemas de contaminación, hablar con familias que, por ejemplo, como yo, que son primera generación. Si tu nieto o tu primo o tu nephew están en la universidad, esos son temas que nosotros tenemos en la universidad. Even just for classes. Nosotros tenemos hay una costumbre que en la comunidad latina no hablamos de temas. y nuestros sobrinos y nietos, ellos son primera generación, tienen una cultura de americano y una cultura de latino que pueden traer los dos juntos. Y ahí vamos a hablar de estos temas. Hey, ¿por qué es el tema de carbono y por qué es que es malo para nuestra familia? Una pregunta que es tan fácil puede abrir las puertas en muchas posibilidades. Entonces, lo que yo recomiendo siempre usar los resources que tienes en tu familia, la computadora, el teléfono. Nosotros no estamos para andar en Facebook, ¿verdad? ¿Por qué no andar en Facebook para buscar cosas como este conference? Estamos en Facebook. ¿Por qué no buscar en Google? No lo sabemos que queremos, pero ¿qué es la contaminación de carbono? Esos son equipos que tú puedes usar para aprender cosas nuevas. Y eso es la primera fase que tú puedes tomar para transformarte a ti y tu familia. Muchas gracias por la pregunta. Y hay bastantes recursos que se pueden usar y que también pueden tener acceso a, como gente saludable 2030, Healthy People 2030, que tiene todos los recursos y tiene estadísticas sobre la manera que impacta en las emisiones de carbono a la gente. Y también no solamente es esos efectos del ambiente, sino también tienen efectos en la manera que afectan a la comunidad latina de todos diferentes tipos. Yo, como enfermera, tengo una perspectiva bien única porque yo veo a estos pacientes todos los días, trabajando con pacientes de oncología, que son pacientes de cáncer. Yo veo la manera que los efectos ambientales afectan a ellos en los pulmones, en cáncer del pulmón y también de cabeza y boca. Yo sé que no todo el mundo tiene esa perspectiva y ve esos pacientes todos los días, pero sí puedo decir que el efecto es real y uno debe esperar hasta que uno vea esos efectos en su misma vida para poder tomar acción. Gracias. Gracias, Rebeca. Antes de irnos, por favor, no se olviden que nosotros estamos aquí para ustedes. Organizaciones como Poder Latinx tenemos un website que se llama Nos iba a ayudar, poderlatinx.com, donde puedes tener toda la información que necesitas de estas temas. Y nos puedes abrazar cuando quieras si necesitas ayuda para usted y tu familia. Thank you.
Gracias.